evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is the regularly scheduled Board of Selectmen meeting. The date is May 2nd, 2018. This meeting is being broadcast on Channel 9 Live. It will also be replayed on Channel 9 throughout the week, as well as put on YouTube for viewing whenever you want. At this time, I ask that we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Chairman, while we're standing, I would like to mention the passing of resident Joseph Jardin, and also the passing of Judge Thomas M. Quinn Jr. Judge Quinn was not a resident of Dayton, but he was the father of Tom Quinn, the local district attorney, and the DA has spent a lot of time in town attending various events. So in their honor, I would request a moment of silence, please. Thank you.
Thank you, and our condolences to their families. Before public input, which we will get to, we have a special guest this evening. We have Mr. John O'Rourke here tonight to update us on National Grid's newly released rates by Good Energy. So if you have the floor.
Sure. I just have a short handout for you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Madam Town Administrator. Thank you for letting me come before you tonight. Basically, what I want to talk to you about is our update for the electricity aggregation, which started originally in January of 2016. There was a, I don't know whether you know the history of it, but the aggregation was put together during 2015 by Ross Perry, who was the Director of Municipal Services at SERPED. And essentially, he got together not only towns, municipalities from his area, but we have about 6 towns in the aggregation that are outside the area. So a total of 23 municipalities got together and went out to bid at the same time in late 2015. The aggregation started in 2016. There was a 2-year contract on that aggregation, and it was renewed this January 2018. It went out to bid March of 2017 because our analysts told us rather than wait for the fall, that was an ideal time to go out, so that's what we did. And that's certainly one of the advantages we have over the utilities, is that we can go out to bid more strategically than the utilities can. The first page of the handout basically shows you a graph of how aggregation has progressed since 2014. You can see that because of the high energy rates in that 2014-2015 period, municipal officials were getting many calls from their residents and businesses saying, what do we do about these high rates? So municipal aggregation has been in effect since 2000, but as you can see, it kind of was dormant there for quite a while. And then once those new rates came in and the high rates came in from the utilities, municipal officials had much more reason to go out and look at municipal aggregation. And that's essentially what's happened. And at this point, there are 127 municipalities that have adopted aggregation, and there's a bunch more in the queue at the Department of Public Utilities. So it has really taken off, and it has really benefited residents. That next slide shows you our aggregations We have 33 active aggregations, and we have a number in the queue at DPU, and we have one in development. The total population of those aggregations is over 900,000 residents, and the number of households is over 360,000 residents. So you can see how this is really taken off. That next slide shows the aggregation numbers. National Grid rates from November 2016 all the way up to October 2018. National Grid just announced their rates from May through October at 0.1087. During the winter, they were 0.12673, and as you can see, the rates for the aggregation were 0.0949 during that period, and as of the renewal, they were 0.10122. So we're doing very well in terms of one of our goals, and that is reducing the electricity price of residents and businesses. In that next slide, there's a graph of those numbers on the previous slide. So you can see how dramatic that difference is, especially since the rate changed in November. Going forward after that October 2018 date, we're expecting that their adjustment as of November 1 is going to be somewhere in the 11.5 range. So we're still at 10122. So we're still in very good shape for that next 6-month period after that, that graph. So essentially the goals of the aggregation: longer-term electric price stability, reduced electricity rates, more renewable energy options, and protection from unscrupulous marketers. We're basically fulfilling all those objectives. You may have seen or heard about the AG's report that came out. That came out a couple of weeks ago. Essentially, she studied the marketers that you get phone calls from, letters, that go to individual homeowners and look for them to come on board with them. And the AG is basically trying to do a situation where she'll stop that altogether because it has not been favorable. When the aggregation first came on, the towns in the Serpent region were not all that interested in more renewable energy. They were interested in the lowest price. So there hasn't been a lot of options in that on an aggregation basis, but certainly individual homeowners can call us and we can direct them to Mass Consumers Energy Alliance, which is the best place to get Massachusetts Class 1 RECs for renewable energy for those residents that might want it. So essentially, the aggregation's doing very well, and we expect it will continue to do very well for your residents. That last slide is my card. My phone number on there is my cell number. You can call me anytime with questions, okay, about the aggregation. If you have residents that are interested who aren't in the aggregation and want to join, they can call me and I can give them the number to call for that. Okay. Any questions?
I don't. I just wanted to thank you for keeping the electric rates low.
Okay.
Is Good Energy connected to National Grid?
No, we're a consultant, and what we do,
You're independent?
we're totally independent. We sit on your side of the table to get the best rates from national suppliers who are very interested in coming into the market on a residential basis, because many of them have exhausted their commercial and industrial markets. So they're very interested in coming into situations like this. The entirety of the Aggregation, has about 180,000 accounts. So that's a big chunk of electricity for suppliers that want to, bid on those items. And essentially, it's bulk buying, and that's why we can get a lower price at strategic times in the market. Okay. Any other questions?
Selectman Goulart? Yeah. I just wanted to thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to see you. And
Thank you,
for
Brett.
your work on behalf of the people of Dayton.
Okay.
So when will this come up again? Because I know you start negotiating before the period ends.
Okay, now this is a 3-year contract.
Correct.
Again, we will negotiate when our analysts tell us it's the best time.
Oh, okay.
So,
They know
It's
what,
time to
looks
lock
like
the
they know what
rates.
they're doing.
but we'll be back to, give you updates, and please call me anytime.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Brett.
Mr. O'Rourke.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Okay. Have a good night, Mr. O'Rourke. Excuse me. You okay? We're good? Okay, we're good. We're gonna go on. Next is public input. Do you have anything?
Nothing.
Okay.
Not at this time.
Yeah, Mr. Thibodeau. Please, if you don't mind just letting us know who you are, or letting I know who you are.
I'm Mike from Chestnut Street. How is everyone tonight?
Good, how are you?
Very well. It was a good night. So I do have some things that I brought up somewhere
Sure.
around here. Because the past 4 or 5 weeks I've been down here working on, looking at TIF agreement, but also listening, and obviously we're not gonna work on a TIF agreement this year, so that means we're not gonna be able to bill, and so I have more time. So I have some questions on the school system. We got 3 different schools. Do we know how many kids the capacity for each school is? Yeah.
I thought it was like, isn't it 400 for the elementary school?
Don't quote me exactly, but
So-
the elementary school is a little over 400,
Yes.
the middle school is closer to 500, and then the high school is well over 1,000.
How many kids do we have going to school presently?
We're near capacity at the elementary school. There's a
How
little
about the
bit
high
of-
school and junior high?
The middle school, we have a little bit of room for
Yeah.
expansion, and the high school, there's plenty of room.
Why don't we just move grade 8 to the high school then and stretch everything around to the other
Mr.
2
Thibodeau,
schools?
can I ask you a question?
Yes.
I feel like this is a conversation that's more appropriate for the school committee, who actually has jurisdictions over the questions
You
you're
guys
asking.
have control over them.
No, no.
We don't.
They're elected officials. No.
Okay.
And that suggestion, that has been discussed several times.
This is actually the time to ask those
Yeah,
questions.
it came up, as a matter, we met with the school department, and went over their budgets, just recently, and enrollment,
Mhm.
shifting classes,
Mhm.
moving things around, all of that was discussed at that meeting. And the regional high school is still working on their, it's not, the regional school district is still working on their
Yeah.
budget, so,
Because I looked at that, when you're talking about adding 450,000 to put those buildings up, wouldn't it make more sense just move some kids around, redeploy their areas they're staying in?
I didn't know that figure.
what's the,
Yeah.
we don't have a
They
number
don't
on
have a
that.
figure
I
yet.
thought they had a number, I heard it was 450,000 to put those
That would be cheap,
buildings up.
that would be cheap.
For the,
My
They
understand-
weren't
for the
buildings, they
mobile
were
buildings.
modular
No,
units.
my understanding
Like
is,
like a mobile home type thing.
my understanding is that they expected to have the bid numbers today or tomorrow,
It was tomorrow.
Yeah.
Mhm.
because at the budget meeting, that number was not available, and the warrant article is a blank right now.
I asked that question of the finance committee specifically, and they said they also didn't have a figure from the regional school district.
Yeah, that would make the most sense to do that, try to save money for the towns.
I would hope that that would be something they would look at before asking
Yeah.
for modular units.
Well, that's good. The other thing we need to do is we need to work on more land conservation in this town.
I would agree with you.
Because land conservation, everyone says it takes off the tax rates, but it actually increases the value of the town
Mhm.
on multiple
Well,
levels.
we did, when I say we, the Conservation Commission just,
I
at the
know
end
they
of the
did.
year, acquired Council Oak too.
Mhm.
I know, there's still more that needs to be done though.
We- I agree. Yeah, I was just gonna say.
I think the initiatives of this town are very forward-thinking, the right to farm bylaw, the agricultural commission that's coming before town
It's-
meeting, it's all kind of lining up in that same vein.
Along
But
with the open space and the
Exactly,
conservation.
and so the open space plan is currently being worked on, Serpent is helping us out
The
with
other thing
that.
I suggested in the past, just send letters out to people who land in town, see if they want to donate it to conservation. There's a lot of people that have farms in town, they're multi-generations, they can't afford to keep any more. 'cause of
Okay,
the
there's a
taxes.
difference between donating farmland with an agricultural restriction and donating farmland to conservation. Conservation pretty much focuses on wetlands. As a matter of fact,
Yeah.
the vote that was taken, the unanimous vote that was taken by conservation,
Yeah,
that allowed them to spend their money to acquire Council Oak Two, there was a lot of discussion because it wasn't truly wetlands, which is what
Yes.
they're interested in. But the Somerset wellheads are affected by that property, and I think that influenced the vote. As far as acquiring land, we acquire some land by tax title. It's not our favorite way to do it. Some people do donate land, but I can tell you we've had offers of land that we've also refused because they will be of no benefit to the town. They were landlocked, again, sometimes people offer to donate property so they don't have to pay the taxes on it, but they aren't the kind of properties that fall within the land use committee, I'll call them guidelines,
okay,
okay? But I'll also tell you, Council Oak Two has both a conservation restriction and an agricultural restriction. So that land will be planted, right?
And I
There'll be
would,
crops.
yeah, absolutely. I would also urge, and you know, I'm not entirely an expert, obviously, on chapter, I believe it's 61A, but I would ask those folks who are having trouble affording their farmland, for example, that was just the example you gave, to look
Yes.
into that, to try to get their
yeah,
land in
it's
chapter.
just sad that you hear people that live in town, older people, a lot older than I am, I knew since I was a little kid, and they say you
Mhm.
can't afford the taxes.
What I will tell
They're
you,
ready to move.
agreed, what I would tell you, Mr. Thibodeau, is,
You can call me Mike,
if,
thank you.
prefer Mr. Thibodeau while we're here. What I would say is, I'm open to anybody who's thinking about donating their land. We would have to discuss it and see if
Yeah.
it was feasible for the town, and there would be other officials we would have to consult with and get their advice on, but that's always on the table.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Another thing that came up last week, I heard it used quite a bit, was free cash and use of free cash. The concern I have with that is this year, we might have a lot of free cash available to us. A lot of these things getting funded, next year if the funds aren't available, that's gonna become a challenge for this town.
Since I have been here though, Mr. Thibodeau, we have had free cash in, around 2 million every year since I was elected in 2016. I'm not making a statement like we should spend it, that's certainly not what I'm saying. But your point is well, but it's been there since I've been here.
We
as
really
well.
should just put that back to the taxpayers and relieve
We've done
that
that
tax.
twice since I was
Yeah,
elected.
for a small amount.
The thing about free
Your
cash
opinion.
in this town, we've been through the famine years, quite frankly.
Yes.
And I mean, we had a few of them. What we're seeing now is a combination of things. The biggie is the shifting of costs for the school department that
Yes.
came about with the superintendency of Mike Malone. Thank you, Mike. But I will also tell you this, regardless of the amount of money that is in free cash, the finance committee, when it goes to town meeting, manages that money very, very carefully.
Yes.
And they will never spend all of the free cash, because once the tax rate is set, if you need money, you can't raise and appropriate. You've got to have funds available. You can have a special town meeting and vote to use money from free cash for certain kinds of unanticipated things. That's why we also limit as best we can the number of town meetings we have. And going into the annual town meeting each year, the goal is go in there with a budget that is under the levy limit. You can't go in with anything over it, because it's not gonna get passed. And then there are always those departments who say, but I need this. And they're usually told, come back in September, come back in the fall, we'll have another meeting, because of all the list of things that come in, the first thing that gets funded is the town budget. And then we have special warrant articles. And it's quite often that the budget, the special warrant articles are the ones that get deferred, so that we can go to the annual with a balanced budget. But when the special is over in the fall, we've been fortunate, as Selectman Zagrafis said, that we've had free cash left over. And I can tell you, having served with this finance committee since, I think it was 2002, they will not spend all of that money, because it's not wise to do it, you
No, I
know? So they
understand that.
manage it very well.
Yes, our stabilization funds.
Correct, I was just gonna say that, exactly.
And that's another thing, each year we've been able to, when we've had that extra money in,
Yep.
when free cash gets certified, and we look at the warrant articles that come up in the fall, and determine what it is we need, then we always look to say, what's left in free cash? Let's look at the stabilization account, let's look at reducing the tax rate, let's look at the capital stabilization account, and the latest one is the OPEB account. So all of those accounts have benefited from free cash. Obviously, reducing the tax rate's not an account, but that has also been done.
The other thing, there's always discussion of putting a new library in. Has anyone ever reached out to Somerset and seen about regionalizing the library with them?
Is that a thing? Have you ever heard of that? I've never heard of that.
No, and I don't, that's not in their plans. They're actually in a queue for a grant, which would fund about half of the of the cost of the renovation. We do, we're lucky enough to have State Representative Haddad, who is on the library caucus, which is great for us, and she is visiting in May, this
Yeah.
month actually, to help us, talk about what we could do feasibly, because I know that the renovation project, some people aren't a fan of it, so we're trying to see what we can.
What is the
But as far
estimated
as
cost
renov-
of that project?
We,
A little bit, 8
yeah, it
million.
was 8, and then they
And
get
our
a little
cost
more
would be
than
like
half.
4.5
So
or
it's
so.
about $4.5 million.
That would be the town.
Just like the school department, where they have the mass school building, that makes rules. There is a library association, and that's I'll call it the governing organization that the libraries fall under. And they have say about a lot of things, even about the budgets and what kind of money you have to budget for certain things. You have to spend at a certain level in order to keep certification. So it's not just simply a town decision. There's a state agency, and that's where the funding comes through that Mrs. Aaronstein's referring to.
Yes.
I will also add, if it's okay with you, Mr. Thibodeau, that the Dayton Public Library is part of the sales network. So when I go to the Dayton Public Library and they don't have the book that I want, they
Yes.
contact Taunton or Rainham or Somerset, and they get the book for me. So in that way, that addresses your sort of regionalization. In terms of the actual building structure being regionalized, I've never seen that before.
I do like I do, just use your Kindle at home and read the book, like the rest of the society today.
Which you can also
rent
get through the
ebooks
sales
from
network,
sales,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
Did you come with the list, Mr. Thibodeau?
Pretty much, because I'm bored now.
No,
You know,
you
I have
can-
nothing.
no,
I have
no,
nothing
you-
else to do.
What
So
else you got on your list?
I
Continue.
don't know. We need 55 and over housing in this town.
Oh, there's no
That's-
question about
That's
that.
we should probably try to prompt some of these developers that want to do 40Bs to push into that.
Stonegate Landing that was how that was originally supposed to be, and then they found out that wasn't gonna work too well, and then it went to a 40B, I believe,
They
but.
didn't lay it out correctly for what they were doing.
But there's no question about that people who reach a certain age want to stay in town, but they're tired of maintaining homes, and they'd like to go into something like an over 55 that is not based on salary, obviously. There's also been a request to expand the housing that we have, like Lincoln Village,
Yep.
because there's a waiting list for Lincoln Village.
The waiting list is crazy for that.
So, that's been talked about too, but I understand what you're talking about, an over 55 community.
And I believe, that I can't remember exactly when, but the prospect of like a senior needs study committee has been raised before. So it is something
Yeah.
we'll look into, I'm
Oh,
sure.
The Northeast is aging out. It's-
I get the emails and the messages about people who want to stay in Dayton, but they can't afford their house, but the Lincoln Village wait list is too long. I hear it actually a lot, more than I would like to, so.
Something that's off
I
topic, but
understand.
last week, Selectman Goulart brought it up about the bottle bill that you went to that class about, or meeting about.
Can
I'm
you
surprised they
repeat
don't,
that? I didn't
The
hear that.
bottle bill.
you talked about a bottle bill, they
Oh,
want
that
to
bottle bill.
proposed,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
from 5 cents down to 3. Would make more sense.
No, eliminate the 5 cents totally and put
Yeah.
a penny on every single bottle
Yeah.
That's the
type.
wrong way to go. They should raise it up to like a quarter so it makes a value, so people stop picking those things up.
Mhm.
Well, the committee I serve on voted against that. They don't want the bottle bill changed as we know it, but the committee I'm on also supported the proposed legislation to add a nickel to every nip
That's
bottle.
the one, and
Because
this
we
board
figured you
voted
get
that.
tons of money. Yeah, we supported that also.
Ridiculous how many of those you find around. It's crazy, they're all over the place.
At a nickel,
Agreed.
well, when we had the cleanup day, they talked about all of the nip bottles that were found. That's a nickel apiece if that legislation passes.
Yeah. That's interesting. What committee is that you sit on?
Mass Municipal Association, a Committee on Energy and the Environment.
Do they broadcast out any of the TV stations or cable?
No.
No?
No.
That'd be interesting to see that. All right, I'll get out of here. Thank you very much, guys. You were
No,
informative.
you are always
Okay.
welcome, don't.
You answered some of the questions I didn't have answers to. I wish the Finance Committee was broadcast on Channel 9 so I knew it was going out to better educate and speak about these
I
matters.
understand.
Well, they're meeting tomorrow night, 6 o'clock, if you want to show up.
And May 10th, that's it.
I have Masonic duty tomorrow night, unfortunately,
understand.
guys. Thank you.
You're welcome. And believe me, if we had the staff down in cable to do it, we would.
Yeah.
I understand. And they meet, remember, they meet at different times, so it's hard to coordinate.
Well, thank you for your time.
Absolutely. I thank you. Madam Administrator, we're ready for your report.
So the policy manual review is something that I've been working on, as you're aware, and these 3 points are all related, so I'm just gonna.
Yeah, absolutely.
Last meeting, or a couple meetings ago, the last bit we did about this review were a handful of employment policies, where you did vote, and I shared with you my recommendations, you did make votes. And then we also discussed the town vehicle use policy specifically. I was operating under the guise that these policies had been bargained with the unions. According to Mass General Law, we have to do that when they're employment policies, and it turns out they had not been.
May I, for the
Yes.
public, and I don't mean to, I'm sorry for
No, it's
interrupting,
fine.
but I want the public to know what the town administrator, is speaking about is the policy manual that the Board of Selectmen had adopted back in 2012, I believe. So not the current one we're discussing currently with the town administrator. Continue.
And it might be 2016, actually. That's the latest minutes we found. So I'm just here reporting to you that this is a little bit on hold until we can hash this out. And the way I'd like to hash this out is to establish a policy review board made up by memberships of the union. I'm just thinking stewards, but they would be at liberty to nominate their own individuals. And we would hash out details of any employment-related policies, come to recommendations and resolutions on anything that might be up for dispute, and then provide them to you for your first reading and however that goes.
No, I'm sorry.
No,
continue.
that's it, go ahead.
I like that idea simply because I think this is a way to expedite policies related to employment so that we're not attempting to pass things and then we have issues with perhaps one of the unions. I think that this just sort of smooths that out. I also think it is a show, almost like extending an olive branch, or it's a consolation to the unions to let them know that we value you, we see a place for you in the town, and your voice on employment policies will be heard by the Board of Selectmen. So I support that, and if anyone else has anything to add.
So does the town vehicle use policy come under an employment policy?
It was part of the group that is called employment policies in
the
this
original
manual.
book? Yeah.
In the manual.
So we
So it was
can't
talked
act on
to
that
the-
one separately?
We could, and I, now going forward, I'm going to do them all separately and not a chunk.
Because we
But
did
this
read
ha-
we did read the
You did a
vehicle
first
one
reading.
first.
This is actually how this came out.
Yeah.
We did the first reading and then invited feedback, which should be provided.
Yep.
And then we discovered that it had not been bargained, so originally. So
We weren't.
this specific policy is on hold because there are a couple of items in it
Okay.
that relate to somebody prospectively losing their job over, I think,
The
an egregious infraction, but it does need to be bargained.
Okay.
So that's just me saying I'd like to establish a policy review board if you'd like to vote on that recommendation, and that the review will be a little bit on hold until we can hash this out.
One question, and then I'll ask if we're, if anyone's prepared to make a motion, anyone meaning you.
Okay,
Has anyone spoken to the union about this?
Yes.
Like, not about the policy, about the formation of a review board that has member from each of the unions?
I spoke with one particular union, their representative, and have yet to hear back, which is fine, but I'll keep on it. But I think that I would model it the way that we handled the anti-harassment policy, which they had indicated, the same lawyer had indicated that that was exactly what they envisioned to be the correct way. So I'd like to just follow
So we followed that procedure, I understand now.
For the
Okay.
anti-harassment one, we did.
oh, okay.
And we
So-
didn't have any, there were no issues?
That one's in place.
That one is in place, no question, thank God, no question about it, that one's good to go. And so I would just continue that same procedure and get them on board basically
And that was
before it even
smooth.
came here. Yeah, it was smooth, and people did offer their comments.
So we have some other policies, though, that were approved that don't
Yes.
relate to,
They
Those
don't
are
relate
okay,
to
right?
employment, so that
Right.
would be
They don't
something
have
I
any.
wouldn't go to a policy review
Right.
board.
So these are
Any-
just employment
These are the
related?
employment policies.
okay.
But while we get, this is going to take a chunk of my time, so I just wanted to put everything on hold for a little bit
Right.
until we
Okay.
Get it
sort out
together.
this details.
Mhm.
And then once we get a well-flowing procedure,
Mhm.
I think everything can follow suit.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we accept the recommendation of the town administrator and establish a policy review board.
I'm gonna step down and second that motion. Discussion?
Do you have any idea what the makeup of the committee would be?
I'm envisioning that it's myself and then a member from each union. Unless you'd like to be on it, but
Okay,
you have to eventually vote on the policy, so.
It'll
Okay.
come to us at some
Okay.
point, yeah.
all right.
I have a question.
Sure.
Would you have any non-union personnel present? Because some of these policies would apply.
Right,
I'm okay with
so
that,
the idea behind this is not to preclude anybody. If you remember at the anti-harassment one, that was also handed out to non-union. So the same procedure would apply, but that's an excellent point. I don't envision it because I don't, the town does not have to by law, and it's just make a good employment
It's a
practice.
courtesy.
It's a courtesy, it's.
Are
a
you
good-
volunteer? No, I'm just kidding.
I
I'm
know,
just
you
kidding,
wanna have
Mr.
another job?
President, anyone without a contract should be represented.
What I will say is, and again, if a non-union personnel wants to be on the committee, I'm fine with that, but I would assume that every policy would also go to them as well. Like, everyone in this building would have a chance, and outside this
As long
building.
as you have a chance to review it.
Absolutely, absolutely. I would
So-
never, just so everybody knows here, I would never vote on a policy where we didn't give everyone time to give us feedback.
So one of the policies in the policy review manual is actually how the selectmen will go about setting policy. So it's a policy for policy. So we'll create that to craft out this exact procedure, where the unions are doing their policy review board, and then the non-union officials would be represented as well. So we'll just make sure our
So,
policies.
We've got 5 unions,
Yep.
so if we go with a 7-member committee, 5 unions,
And then-
you
Oh,
and a civilian. No, excuse me.
Like a
non-union
non-union
person.
personnel representative.
Yeah,
Right. And the other thing too is the draft policies, when they're made, when they're formulated and the committee agrees, then they can be made public, so we get public input, like we've posted other
So
things.
that would stay, so you'd still do your
Absolutely.
readings, and then
Okay.
I like how we post them online,
Me
and people
too.
can read them, and
Me
I
too.
like that, so we would
and
continue.
people like
that.
that, by the way. They like being involved.
Well, I'm glad we read it, because there was a question about whether or not we were gonna read it, because it was 3 pages long.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
But had we not done that, people would not have been aware, because
Mhm.
not everyone reads the postings.
It's true. Yeah, that was a
So-
good idea.
I'll be back before you to get actual, appointments to the committee.
Any further discussion?
We probably should bring this up tomorrow morning at the department head meeting
That's
and
my
let
plan.
people know.
Yeah, that'd
Yeah.
I'm hoping a volunteer will
Yeah, right?
come forward, looking at you. But
be.
yes,
He did
that's,
suggest it. Any further discussion on this? All right, let's take it to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. The motion passes. Superb idea, Madam Administrator.
thank you.
Do you
Other
have
towns, I
anything
didn't do
else?
it myself, other
No,
towns do it too. No, I don't, that's it for me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Old business, Selectmen's budget review. And I know we have a couple things we need to tidy up before FinCom finalizes their recommendations. And I know you drew up a list, which I
Yep.
appreciate. So if you wanna, you have the floor, Selectman Goulart.
So, if there are any FinCom people watching tonight, Mr. Swartz, one of the questions was whether or not there was an article on the warrant for the special town meeting to cover any additional expenses for the old town hall. And the answer is yes, but there may not be a need to act on that again, because once we see, as the budget year ends, where we are, there may be internal transfers that would cover that, and then we wouldn't have to act on this at the special town meeting. In looking at the general questions regarding the selectmen's budget, tonight, excuse me, the board met with the town accountant and reviewed the hours. And it was the board felt that the 40 hours are needed for the town accountant. This had gotten somehow mixed up in the process, and it was 40 hours and 35, and anyhow, it's back to 40. We should probably vote that tonight. in
Right,
this-
exactly.
All
You
right,
just- you
I'm
need to
gonna do the
ratify that
summarizes
decision.
first,
Mhm.
okay. She had a request for additional hours for the clerk in her office, but we didn't act on that. We probably should. She was looking for 6 hours to make the
It
job.
was the first time I had heard
I
that.
had never heard it either. She said she chose not to put in for it. I actually am walking away unclear on whether or not she wants to.
She wants it
proceed
in
with
there.
that
She didn't put
request.
it in there because she was under duress.
Would you like us to ask her for a new budget request that you can vote on with that in there, or?
Well, we gotta, I'm gonna suggest that tomorrow, you get in touch with her and tell her that we voted tentatively to allow that 6-hour increase, so we can take it to the finance committee tomorrow night. If she has any reservations, she needs to let us know before tomorrow night, and that way, it's not gonna be in there, but we need to let the finance committee know. I don't wanna wait till a week from Thursday and say, oh, by the way. So we'll vote, that'll be a tentative vote.
I have one question about that. I had heard that there was someone that wanted to intern in the office, so shouldn't we know a little bit more about
Right.
that before we're
Yeah, there
voting
isn't,
on?
there isn't, it's not gonna be hours and hours. It's not gonna
I
be.
think the best thing to do would be to reach out and see exactly what they're requesting,
That was the
like, is
first
it-
time I had heard. It was only like an hour and a half ago, so.
saying.
No, I had heard about it before.
Oh, the intern?
No,
No, the
the
hours.
intern
The
is
6
separate.
hours?
No, I'm
Yeah.
talking about the clerk. Well, as a matter of fact, she's gonna be here tomorrow morning. Okay? We won't be able to vote on it, though. Are you coming to the FinCom meeting tomorrow night?
Yeah.
Are we posted for tomorrow night? The selectmen? All right, so tomorrow morning, we can find out from her, is
Yep.
that what she's asking for? Come up with the numbers, give us the numbers,
Mhm.
and that way, you and I can
Yeah.
vote on this tomorrow night,
Absolutely.
or not vote on it, if that's not what she wants. But the FinCom will not be waiting a week from tomorrow
Yep.
to have
Right.
this brought up.
Yep.
The Old Town Hall, lighting, parking, special article for town meeting. Is this the same one that we were talking about for the special? This is separate.
Separate.
Um,
There was some public outreach about doing some work in the parking lot. I never funded or budgeted for parking lot lighting. I had talked to Chairman Zagrafis about maybe putting a car charger out there for electric vehicles, which we're gonna look into next week at the expo.
Thank
So
you,
there are a
Mr.
lot of
Hunt.
things that we want to do with the outside that will require additional funding. It's my understanding that that was not going to be done until the fall town meeting, but
Okay.
Well, when we,
All right,
yeah,
I'm just,
I defer to the town administrator.
Well, I have a
It needs
question.
site plan review.
And you're okay with doing it after the fall town meeting? Like, what is your, I don't mean to put you on the hot
Yeah.
seat, but I just wanna know your preference.
I don't really have a preference, I'd like to get it done. I'd like it to be done for the fall town meeting.
Before?
Yeah, but I don't know if that's possible
Do
from a
we have
finance
a-
perspective.
Do we have a ballpark figure, Mr. Commissioner,
No,
on this?
So
Go ahead.
when I reached out to Tom Ferry, who knows all of this, we had talked about paving and lighting, and he indicated that this would require site plan review,
Mhm.
and that would,
Planning
we
board,
don't
right?
have enough time
Yeah,
to get this on for the warrant. So it would have to be the fall, but it's very much on our radar.
Okay.
Can we ask the question while we have a planning board member here? How long would it take to get site plan review through your board? Do you have any idea? Is it something
You would have to ask Kerry, I mean, I don't see why you can't get on the agenda.
But is it something that you act on usually the same night if you have all of your questions answered?
Yeah, if you have a plan, you know, and a drawing.
and then you give
Yeah,
it
they-
beforehand.
We have given them out on the same night if
Yep.
someone comes in with a plan, you know, and it's acceptable.
But the most would be like 2 meetings. I've never
Right,
seen a
right.
site plan review that lasted more than that.
Well, not only that, it's the town building, it's not like it's a big development or
True.
anything.
I don't want to rush it either. We still have the upstairs to finish. So if it's not completed, we can still have a meeting there in the fall.
But I understand your, I know how it feels to leave a project uncompleted. You probably wanna check it off the list, and I understand that.
Well, because, yes, there's other projects too that
Yep.
we want to work on, so.
Well, this was just a question that
Mhm.
came up, so we'll just let the FinCom know that the article for lighting, parking, that type of thing for the old town hall will be brought up for the fall town meeting.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay, all right. They were just going down the list and didn't want to miss anything, and, you know, are we going to do this or not? We have to resolve the 4 additional hours that were requested by Don Hershey. Additional 4 hours for him.
I support it.
I do
He
too.
came, I felt,
He made a good
he
presentation.
did, he probably shouldn't have had to, personal opinion. But he made a lot of good points that had he not come, and let us know, I probably wouldn't have known. So, yeah, I support it. I don't know how you
Okay,
feel, Selectman
well,
Joseph.
that'll be a motion
Yep.
later tonight. I already spoke to Jen about stormwater. Let's see. I think the rest of it, they were town accountant
There
questions.
was something with the building department, I think we were gonna reassess, correct me if I'm wrong, the overtime line, which he had already slashed more than 50%, and then, and I think I already told you this, Madam Administrator, and then reassess the demolition line, which was reduced to 20,000.
Yeah,
I was
didn't we-
okay with keeping it at 30,000.
I believe you voted to reinstate that.
I thought we increased,
I don't
what's the
recall
date
that.
on the one you're looking at? Down the bottom.
3/28, 2018, but I kinda used the same one for simplicity's sake,
No.
and made changes as I went.
242 is your budget?
Well, this was the latest one that got printed.
41, excuse me.
241. Oh yeah,
This is the one that got printed for last night.
Mhm.
Department 241.
but I believe you voted on it to increase it. I remember it. Going back up to 30, we had a conversation about it, so this is just.
Okay, so the lines you marked up, what were the lines?
It was 5131 and 5380.
Okay, so what are you showing for numbers for the recommendation? 5131.
Yeah, this is inaccurate, because I believe that you voted, but it's 60, it should be Board of Selectmen recommendation for that first line,
Yep.
6,500. And then the line 5380 for the demolition up to 30.
What I have them crossed out, and line 5131 as 4,000 and 5380 as 20,000. And I
That's
think
what's printed, you said.
no, no,
Oh.
that was me crossing it out because
Oh.
I think that's the way we voted.
Oh, okay.
This one is at 4,000. Is that what you're showing?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right, and what was the other one you were showing?
Here, 20,000.
Okay.
We want to go with building commissioner's, original recommendations.
Which was 30,000.
Correct. And 6,500
For
for
the
line
overtime.
5131.
That's the same amount that's been budgeted every year.
I understand.
Okay, yeah, the request was, on 5131, the request was 6,500. And then it got decreased down to 4,
And we voted that.
But,
I'm almost
the 65.
certain. No, the 4,000.
all right,
why
so
it's
that's
in
that one.
Final version.
Then on demolition, you asked for 30, and it got cut to 20, but I believe we went back to 30 on that.
I
Or did
don't
we
think
go to
so.
20?
I'm pretty
You think we
sure.
stayed at 20?
Because that's why it says 20 in the that's the latest version.
Do you have that?
I have that, but I remember the conversation of increasing it, and I
I thought
believe
we
we
I only
voted on
remember
it, but
decreasing. I'm
perhaps
sorry.
just, it's
You could be
fine.
right.
Just vote now.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt
Yeah.
to revote.
What's the date of the ones you're looking at?
I have version 3. I have the one that,
What's the, in
finance,
the, right where your hand is, what's the?
5/1, May 1st.
Oh, that was
This
last
Yeah.
night. All right, so here's, I got one, just let me see if we marked it, this is 424, I just, see if we marked anything here. Yeah, here it is, right here. $20,000 go to 30K, so we did change that one.
Okay, so we only need to
But the
change
overtime?
5131?
No, 5131 is at 4.
Yeah, we need it to be at, or, excuse me, what I personally think it should be at is the original request, which was 6,500.
Well, that's what I was saying.
Mhm.
All right, so, then, going back to 5131, the request was 65, it got reduced, whatever, to 4. And what you're saying is, you remember, that should be at $6,500.
Personal opinion and apparently
Okay.
the opinion of the
And
building
then,
commissioner.
when we discussed the demolition line,
Mhm.
whenever this one was,
Mhm.
the worksheet's on 424.
Mhm.
It says, go to 30K, excuse me, so that the original request was 30, it got reduced to 20, but we made the remark go to 30, so that's where that should be.
Yep.
So Jen's gotta be made aware of this, because
Yep.
this hasn't been adjusted.
Mhm. But I think the 6,500 we need to actually vote on. The other thing, we did vote on that, but it's just incorrect
Yeah.
in this version, that's all.
Okay. Do you have any comments?
Just one, if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Of course.
On the demolition line item, I just want everybody at home to know that we have recouped all of the liens and/or the properties that have been liened. So with the exception of what I have going on this year, we've either realized the money or we realized the property. So that money was not spent for naught.
That's a good point.
Thanks.
No, I appreciate that, thank you.
Okay, so let me go back to my list. Okay, so I make a motion that the town accountant's hours for FY '19 be set at 40 hours per week.
I'm gonna step down and second that motion. Discussion? Okay, hearing none, let's take it to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstentions, the ayes have it, the motion passes.
Okay, so on the 6 additional hours, she was looking for clerical help. We'll find out tomorrow for sure if she wants us to move forward on that, and then tomorrow night, you and I will have to act on that if she does. Okay. Building, all right, so now the building commissioners department. Mr. Chairman, I move that line 5131 in Department 241, building inspection, be increased, and the new number is $6,500.
I'm gonna step down and second that motion. Discussion. Hearing none, let's take it to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, the ayes have it, and the motion passes.
Okay, Old Town Hall, we took care of that. Veterans Agent.
I'm trying to cheat. Thank you for being patient, everybody watching.
I used to do an index of this, and they used to make fun of me when I was on the Finance Committee. Index
On
would be
page
helpful.
12.
Yep, page 12. 543.
Yeah, because there's the note I got right there.
Yep.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I move that line 5105 in Department 543, Veterans Agent, be increased by 4 hours, making his work week 18 hours per week. And okay, so that would be that's what he recommended, that's what he requested. And to approve these department requests for FY '19 of $25,834.72.
I'm gonna step down and second that motion. Discussion? Sure.
The
Madam
rest of the
Administrator.
budget, did you ever vote for all of the budget? Because I have a note that you're holding on this until you.
Yes, no, thank you. No, you're absolutely correct. We didn't act at all, so perhaps we could just do it as a whole department and then just note the 18 hours.
You mean vote on the veterans budget?
Yeah, the
Okay.
whole,
Or
the
you
whole
could,
thing.
Okay,
because
so
you had a motion and a second, you can vote on that and then just do the rest of the
Okay,
budget.
that's fine.
all right.
Further discussion. Thank you, Madam Administrator. Hearing none, let's take it to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, the ayes have it, and that motion passes.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the Department 543, department total, be approved at the department request for FY '19, $150,801.10. That's 150,801.10.
I'm gonna step down and second that. Further discussion?
Could you, I'm sorry, could you repeat that department total again?
150,801.10.
Oh, I'm sorry, yep, thank you.
Any further discussion?
I do have, I'm sorry.
Sure, no, you have the
He
floor.
had requested funding, and I don't see it here unless the finance committee made a determination on this, requesting for an annual breakfast for the veterans and related activities. He put in $1,000 for it. Did they? It's not listed here.
It looks
There
like
was a
it
new-
was possibly taken out. It's 577X in my version,
Oh, so I don't have it there.
but
me
I have
just
an old
look.
version.
Yeah.
No, it's not in here.
So it must be included somewhere else.
No.
No.
I wouldn't say
No.
that,
They
I
took
don't
it
know.
out?
I believe he removed it, because the last time he
Mhm.
spoke to me about this, I told him he couldn't use public money for
Yeah,
that purpose.
Okay,
And that was
so
your
it's supposed-
concern.
That was my
Okay.
concern, not that I don't support it.
Of
and
course.
But
We
that
have to
was
do
my
things
concern.
properly, I understand, and I appreciate that, and that is what you were hired for. Thank you very much.
No, he did ask me about these things, and I said, you can't do that.
Do we have any further discussion on that? No, it's okay, thank you, Madam Administrator. Hearing none, let's take it to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. That motion passes.
Yeah, the rest of these were
Yeah,
just
Mr.
questions for
Commissioner.
Jen.
While we're on that topic,
Sure.
maybe let everyone know at home that we'll be looking for donations to put that breakfast on.
Absolutely,
So
absolutely,
step up to the plate if
Yep.
you can, please.
absolutely.
It's a worthy cause.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. Selectman Goulart?
I don't have anything else.
That's it?
Yeah, that's everything I
That's
had.
the last thing, and then we'll, yeah.
I'm
Madam
sorry, I
Administrator.
did have two things.
Sure.
One is the police department budget.
Yep.
I believe there was a typo, and it's my mistake, so I'm sorry about that. But the line, so that is on page 6, and it would be line 50, 51, sorry. That's not right. Fifty-one, 58, excuse me.
Benefits communication allowance?
Yes, that should be up to 6,500 and not 3,900.
Oh, that's not correct. I got some
The
information on
6,500
that
is not
today.
correct. Would you like to hold on it?
I
Remember
wanna know
that,
what it is now.
it's the communications oversight.
Yeah.
The problem is, 3,900 is the amount that is in the separate line item. When he was first given this task, this assignment, it got buried in his salary line and has been increased by 2% ever since. Then he got the second, 75. That's 39. So you can't add this all together. This is the thing, when we looked at it, we said he's getting a cut in salary
I remember that.
because of the way it was presented. We need to hold on this one because this needs to get straightened out, because I had a note on that. That was one of my notes to Jen today. And she says, no, you gotta remember that you've gotta consider the amount of money that is already in the salary. And then he got another stipend that is a separate line item. But if you're gonna talk the total salary for oversight of communications, you gotta look at both numbers.
Mhm.
So let's hold that for
Yep.
me.
And FinCom is, I believe, is aware of this from the discussion last night.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they're aware, and we're all gonna get it resolved.
Yeah.
Thank you again, Madam
Well, the other
Administrator.
question that the Finance Committee had last night was, in looking at the salary, what department was that? Where are you at?
210 Police, page 6.
The other thing that came up last night, I gotta make sure I got the right paper. All right, this is last night, I think. The question was, when you look at FY '17, the amount is $115,362. And when you look at the Board of Selectmen recommendation for this year, it's 111. Why is there a cut in pay? All right? It's got to do with, and I said this to Jen, we need to get this straightened out. So this is another line we have to look at in the police budget.
Mhm.
I mean, it's
Again,
clear,
FinCom
it's
as well.
clear. FY '17 is 115.
His contract lists, okay, you know what, it's on hold and we'll just
Yeah.
hash it out.
And
Okay.
again, FinCom, the chief, and we're all aware
Well, this
of the
was-
the discrepancy.
Yeah, the questions came up and it was like, I don't know, that's, I don't know. I knew about the stipend for communications, but how that happened, I don't know.
Mhm.
Okay.
But
The
we-
other one
we-
was Board of Health, because I heard hearsay today that the hours were changed for the,
Yes,
What page is this?
Board of Health is on,
I heard this as well.
11.
It looks
11.
like, yep. Okay, 510 and 519.
what page you on?
11.
11, and it would be under 519, and the line we're looking at is 5115, the office manager. I heard that the hours had changed. So, kind of
Yeah.
along the same line, just to get some
Um,
information.
Why
from
does it
Okay.
say 15? I
And
believe
that's
they're
incorrect,
35.
because she's increased from your last town meeting. I think that's just a carryover from what the line says.
Okay,
This is
So-
line 5115. Yes, she's currently at 30 hours a week, and the chairman of the Board of Health requested that it go to 35 hours a week, which is that salary of 43,000 that you see there.
I thought that position was already I could have
No,
sworn it was
It's 30.
35.
It's 30.
It's 30.
So that's, so the budget request of 43,971.20 is what was recommended. And, the reason was that the chairman of the Board of Health said that, she's the one there that's all the time, she's the one there to deal with the public. She's a certified, let me get this straight, she's taken the course to be safe serve, food handler. And he wants her to start attending coalition meetings because he can't always go to them. So,
She's an office manager, no offense.
yeah, I'm
She's
only.
not a member of the Board of
I'm-
Health.
I'm only telling you.
No,
what-
I know you just, I didn't mean that.
No, I know.
You know
that.
what I
Why
mean.
would the office manager go out
That-
and do
Are you repeating what I said?
Are you kidding me?
No, he
I
said.
agree, I just said
That's what
that.
he said last night at finance committee
Yes.
meeting too.
Also, may I make another
You're
point?
gonna send a secretary out to do a health inspection? Are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding you. They must be kidding you. What I would also say is we agreed to give the health agent $11,000 more had I noticed that they were trying to give the office manager, because they're the face of the Board of Health, an extra 5 hours. I would have rethought about that vote.
Well, I happen to attend all the finance committee meetings, as you know, and Mr. Pires was explaining some bizarre, ideas that he had on this engineer's salary, saying that if it was a contracted position 10 years ago when we started having unions, then that position would be up to, say, $32 an hour now. So he wants to pay this new employee that rate. I mean, that's the longevity rate. He's only been here a couple of months.
Not only that,
Why would
Mr.
you want to start him way up here? Not that, nothing.
I agree, 'cause you know it goes up and up.
But I mean, any person in town government,
Mhm.
you're brand new, you got a job here, you like to work in the town of Dayton, that's great, and this is your starting pay. And I asked the guy last night in the meeting, are you looking for more hours? And he said, well, not at this pay. What kind of answer is that?
I wasn't there for that, but
Not a very good answer. Just it's like saying Don Hershey, a fine veterans agent. Oh, I'm sorry, I can't help you with federal benefits because they don't pay me enough. I mean, come on. You're working for
Well,
the
in
town.
all honesty, I think the reason why the health agent said what he said was that he has a private business, and he is a licensed professional engineer. And when he acts in that capacity in his business, his hourly rate is much higher. That's why he would not want to give up more of his professional, personal time to run his business, to put more hours in at the Board of Health. That's what he was talking about. I don't think he was trying to dismiss the importance of the work he does.
Well, the way you made it sound is if you were willing to pay him more, he'd be willing to work more.
Okay, I think, perhaps since we're going to be revisiting,
People are trying to take advantage of the town of Dayton. And it's the Board of Selectmen's job to pay attention to that.
The only note I have here on that is that, we did look at, it says FinCom will look further into it.
I think what you might be referring to, Selectman Goulart, is the request for his salary that came from the Board of Health, and the board voted to change that? Is that what you mean?
I think we had three numbers at one time, and we came up with, the number we came up with, which is not the total. They were looking for a higher amount, and I think the Board of Selectmen
Okay,
voted a lower amount, as I remember.
yes.
Since the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Health have split up, I don't think people realize how much more money it's gonna cost us in dollars and in employees.
I
You
agree.
keep adding employees, you keep giving them raises,
More hours.
and you tell me that there's gonna be less work now because you're just the Board of Selectmen? And when you were doing both, you were saying how much work you had to do because the Board of Health was taking so much of your time. So now you have your own Board of Health, and you're still saying you're busy. It's not making sense.
Well,
Not
it
making sense.
it
I'm
does
watching
make
it.
sense.
You're watching
Keep
me?
watching.
Drive by my house at 12 p.m. and
The
see if my
reason
light's
why
out in
I
my
You're doing a
room.
fine job, thank you.
The reason why, because most of the time of recent, since I came back, I was chairman of the Board of Health, okay? And the only support staff I had was what hours Karen could give me. Not that she wasn't already loaded down, but I got paid as Board of Selectmen, Board of Health, and I did most of the work from home. So when Mr. Pius would say, "Don't you ever sleep?" I'm getting emails in the middle of the night from you. I said, "Well, that's when I send them." No, what I'm
No,
saying
I
to you
know.
is, the reason why you are now seeing that the Board of Health is costing more money than it did when we were three people doing two jobs is because our salaries were set as selectmen. And most of the work that I did, I still do work at home as a selectman. I'm still buried as selectman. We've got additional staff now, we've split off the Board of Health. I am still backlogged and I am still behind. One of the things that the that the Finance Committee has asked, our homework assignment is, they want the Boards of Selectmen and Health to look at the current workload that you have, now that you've split, which should have caused a reduction in the Board of Selectmen. And, okay, Board of Selectmen, you have additional help. Now, you have a town administrator, you're not doing Board of Health work. And Board of Health, you're separate now, and you've hired a health agent, and you've combined some positions, and now you're gonna have a full-time person in the office. That's why it's costing money, is because the people that were doing it before did it for the selectman's salary. It had to be done. I had meetings to go to. I made sure I did it.
It got done.
But
Yeah, but it didn't cost extra money because we were paid as
I
selectmen.
think what your please don't, you can correct me when I finish. I think what your concern is that we just split the board about a year ago. And already, we have people getting more hours, people getting more salary. Your point's absolutely true, but I don't think your concern was the initial cost to have a split Board of Health. I think you're looking
The
at
escalating
the
costs.
budget,
I
and you're
see it all
concerned,
now.
I have the same concern. I did not know that the office manager needed 5 hours because I was never approached.
Nancy knows.
to let me know
I've been
that.
on finance committee meetings for years, you know, and I can see what's going on there.
Well, the Finance Committee has asked similar questions. That's why they want this done.
They
In
did a
other
good
words-
job last night, the finance
Yeah.
committee did a good job.
They did.
last night.
What I want you to know, Mr. Woods, is, yes, I didn't know they asked for, it wasn't labeled correctly that the office manager, for example, they were requesting 5 extra hours. We're also watching too, because it was just raised to my attention, which is why we're here tonight discussing it. But your points are all well taken.
Thank you,
What
sir.
I just want you to know, we're not blind. We all have eyes and we can all read up here. So thank
Very
you.
good.
Madam Administrator.
So do we need to would you like more information on this, and then you can potentially vote it tomorrow when you're at your meeting with this
Is that okay
finance
with you?
committee?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, because,
I'm just not prepared right now, because a lot of this
Understand,
news I
yeah.
literally just got,
I've-
so.
exactly. And as a matter of fact, I got that one last night. That's why I was writing, scribbling
I
on
came a
my-
little late to FinCom because I was at the DR Marching Band Booster Scholarship Advisory Board meeting, so I missed that, and I apologize.
Okay, so just to recap, the two outstanding are police and Board of Health administration, and then the tentative 6 additional hours for the accountant, so those are the 3. Okay.
Do we have anything else? Selectman
Let
Dean?
me just make a quick look and see if I scribbled any other things. The Finance Committee didn't make firm recommendations on anything. They took everything under advisement, I guess you'd say, and they intend to wrap up their department meetings tomorrow night, and then a week from tomorrow, they intend to act on all of the budgeted accounts and the special articles. So that's when we'll know what they're taking to town meeting.
May I make one comment on the Board of Health? When I said that they were increasing, I stand by. I know that the animal control officer is gonna have a lot more to do if the leash law passes, also if right to farm passes, so I stand by that. I wasn't speaking about that when I said that. Sorry, Ms. Carey.
Okay, no, I think we've covered all the notes I had from last night, and the only thing I noticed was that they were waiting on the Board of Selectmen for the veterans agent. We just did that tonight.
Yep.
That was the note that was on there.
Perfect.
These were the sheets as of last night.
And that is that. Okay. Anything else regarding the budget? All right. Let's move on to old business item B, a revote on the donation of items from Bristol County Agricultural High School. If you were bored before, Mr. Wood.
As you may remember, the Bristol County Agricultural High School generously donated some items to us, but they did need to take some back. So we're asking you to rescind your vote of January 31st and then revote it. Oh, I'm sorry.
ACO Ferry.
Yes, I know, it sounds terrible.
Gasp in the back. They have started a new program of wild hares. And they
Excuse
needed
me, of what?
wild hares or wild rabbits.
Okay.
So they needed some of the rabbit cages, some of the cages back, so they could do that then. So it wasn't like they said, oh, here you go, I'll get it back. They were using them for a specific thing, it's a new part of their curriculum.
Yep.
So I gotta ask the question, since we're not supposed to trap and keep wild critters,
This is more of a study of birthing and how they survive and that kind of stuff.
Okay.
It's
So they're
a nice
studying.
program that they're doing.
so for an educational purpose,
Conservation.
and it's, okay, all right, okay. I don't want everybody racing out there and trapping hares. Okay, Mr. Chairman, I move that we rescind the board vote on January 31st, 2018. Is it only the cages that we're voting on?
Yeah.
All right. That we rescind the vote that stated, they gave us 7 cages?
They actually gave us 8 cages. I don't know if it was, they miscounted because they took 5 back and I have 3 at the kennel right now. So,
Karen, when you have a chance, would you just check the minutes of the 31st to find out what we actually voted?
Read this.
7?
Due diligence. Thank you, Ms. Brady.
Okay, all right, so you have a motion.
All right, I will step down and second that motion. Discussion? Hearing none, let's take it to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it, the motion passes.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we accept the donation of 3 stainless steel rabbit/small dog cages from Bristol County Agricultural High School.
And I will step down and second that motion. Discussion? Hearing none, let's take it to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, the motion passes. Thank you, ACO Ferry. Okay, next on the agenda is old business item C, future use of the old police station building, excuse me.
And I'll let Mrs. Ferry and Mr. Aguirre speak on this. We were having a discussion about repurposing the old police station. When I say we, it was just kind of an impromptu thing. The town administrator, the fire chief, and I just happened to be talking about this. And we were also talking about school building needs. And I said, gee, maybe we should consider taking the construction trailers that are attached to the current police station and bringing them up the road and attaching them to the elementary school as classroom space. So I then called Mr. Aguirre and said, Jim, what do you think about this proposal? Mr. Aguirre.
So, I think it's an excellent idea, because even if we repurpose that building, I'm not sure that those units are needed, although Mrs. Ferry has said that she does have a use for them, but I think collectively we can discuss it as a group to see what's best. But those units are actually, I know they're described as construction trailers, but they're in excellent condition. They're a little bigger than 1,500 square feet. They have a handicap accessible restroom. They finished out very nicely inside. So they could be repurposed with the installation of a new roof membrane, which is its only downfall right now in its current location. By doing that, we would alleviate a problem over at the elementary school for virtually no cost. very minimal cost. We would still be able to repurpose the rest of the old police station if we see fit for an animal shelter. I could outfit the inside of that building for an office for Ms. Ferry and a gathering area or waiting room to receive pets, or vice versa. So it's all on the table. I think it should all be discussed collectively as a group, but I think it's all viable. I am not privy to how many classrooms the school is looking for. There's been off-the-record discussion, so I don't know exactly what they're looking for, how many. So I don't know if this will be a complete fix for their problem, but it'll certainly help. And we already own them.
Mm-hmm.
And they're right down the road.
Right. They are, and they can easily be taken back apart and reassembled. We've done it once, we can do it again, so. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, another point is that if those trailers are removed, you had asked that we look at a punch list of what would need to be done to repurpose that building in some way. The roof was one of them, the other was the septic. And by removing the trailers, we eliminate the need to redo the septic unless it failed, and it's looking pretty good.
As long as that
so far.
septic system remains functional, because we're not increasing any flows, we're actually decreasing, that septic system can stay in use. The other thing that was discussed, and maybe you can weigh in on this, is in the area where the animals are kept, there will be some cleanup that needs to be done there, correct?
Correct.
So I discussed with Tom Ferry that we could approach the Board of Health and maybe put a separate tight tank in for that, which may need pumping maybe every, twice a year, semi-annually, depending on the use. So it's all tangible, and for not a lot of money. The building won't need a lot of renovations. The roof is not leaking that I'm aware of on the main building. And I think the build-out that we need to do inside, we could repurpose a lot of the areas that are already in existence, like the communications area, et cetera, et cetera. So it would be some expenditures, but not a big capital investment. So.
So not to leave you out of the discussion, obviously, we understand that the need for I'll call it an animal shelter that meets state requirements. And I think most of us remember the days when that was the highway garage. It was a big garage. It got petitioned off. It was made into a police station and offices and various other kinds of rooms. But in effect, as you said, those petitions, those walls can come down and it can be redesigned. And it appears to have the capacity. The septic system has been pretty much addressed, and animal waste has been discussed, but what's your feeling?
No, as I talked to the building commissioner today, I can work within those walls. The biggest point that we need to do is put in a quarantine room. We don't have a quarantine room. And I have printed out, and I can give them to each of you a copy of the standards of it. It needs to have its own washroom, its own ventilation and everything like that. Everything else I can work around. I mean, I would love to have an area that I can groom the dogs, but that may not be something that happens. But I can work within, right now I've got 5 kennels and that's it, and all I can take is dogs. It would be nice if I have an area for cats or whatever, and be able to take in animals if somebody needs to, for whatever reason, give up an animal, and be able to adopt out from the shelter. Because right now, I keep 7 days, which is what is required, and then, as I said, if after 2 days nobody comes to claim that dog, I start looking for foster homes, so the dog doesn't have to stay more than 7 days. On that 7th day, I usually put them in a foster home and then adopt them from there. So we don't keep them very long in the shelter.
So I did have one question to ask from a compliancy standpoint. Is air conditioning required?
Air conditioning and heat is
Okay.
required. It has to be between 65 and 85.
So I will comment on that. Right now, the police station is utilizing wall or window-mounted air conditioning units, which work very well when you have individual rooms. It does not work very well when you open things up and have a large space. So if we did reconfigure the floor plan, which obviously we will, we may have to do something like a mini split system, which we're gonna do next door downstairs.
Through the wall thing?
Through the wall, right, which are high efficiency, but, the next door is gonna be around $4,000, a little over $4,000. It would be about the same price for that as well. So again, it's not a very large expenditure, so.
It was just that it was just a casual conversation when we were just talking, Mrs. Aaronstein and Chief McGee and I, but we were talking about different things and repurposing that building, and it, you know, I think you've been in that building.
Absolutely.
The trailers, what we call them, yeah.
I've been in the animal shelter too.
It's good space, it's good space. I got a tour of it when those construction units were brought in, and it has potential.
And we already have a handicap ramp that was donated through the Veterans Officer, so, you know, it's fairly well outfitted, so it's definitely something that the selectmen, town administrators should reach out to the school department and see if it's a viable option.
I think,
Is that something we should all get, like, all of us get in the room with
Well-
them together, or have the town administrator discuss the option with them?
well, I'm thinking that it should be more than just the selectman and the town administrator, because he's a key person in this whole
Yep.
thing. And he knows the technical stuff and how many, to address some of your concerns, how many students would fit, or how many do you think you can accommodate, or whatever. My main concern was, when we met with the school department to discuss their budget, as we were leaving, I made the remark to somebody, I think it was a school committee member, what's Plan B? What's Plan B? I said, well, if the people in town don't vote the money for these portables, what is Plan B? We don't have a Plan B. There's gotta be a Plan B. Now, I don't know if what we're proposing is part of A and B too, but there's gotta be options. The other option is just crowd everybody together, so it's worth considering.
I like Mike's idea of moving the 8th grade to the high school.
That makes the most sense.
That frees up a lot of room.
Mr. Swartz-
Other communities do that.
Mr. Swartz has raised that issue a number of times, and he brought it up again. Another proposal is they're gonna bring the pre-K back to Dayton. Well, we don't have room for the students we got, why would you bring pre-K back? I mean, but anyhow, not to get into that in
Yep.
detail,
That's a
but,
good idea, Mike.
There's already a precedent though of that when the school next door that I went to, when I burnt down, the junior high, they already moved that, deployed the 8th grade over to the high school for a while during construction.
Mind if I ask a question about the dog shelter?
Sure.
Roughly how many dogs that we house on an annual, you know, average?
Average now, I can have 10 a year, but that will
At a
change.
time?
No, at a time, I've had all my kennels filled at one time.
So 5.
How many do you have right now today?
Right now, I have one in foster care.
One in foster care.
So there's none in the kennel.
There's none in the kennel because as soon as I picked her up, I had her vaccinated because I knew she was a drop-off, and she went right to foster
So for
care.
the most part, we have 1 or 2 animals at all times.
At all times, but if we have a shelter, we're gonna have drop-offs, and it would,
So if we had a shelter, it would cost us more money because more people.
not so much more money because you now take in money because you charge for boarding, you charge for whatever you have to do.
Who are we
You have
gonna charge?
the person's, if their dog is the one that I pick up, they now have to prove that dog has its rabies and is licensed in town. If not, they have to do that.
You're gonna hold it like a library book.
And then the boarding is $25 a night in our facility. If I keep a dog overnight, strays, adoption fees. We have never adopted adoption fees. That's the way to make some money from strays.
the other thing is if the leash law passes,
Yeah.
gotta have a place to keep the
And that's gonna
animals.
pass, just so you know.
All right.
Yeah, we know you told us.
But,
Wait, Mr.
I just see one drawback with that spot location. That's a recreation area. Okay, people play tennis, people play
Mhm.
basketball.
Mhm.
I'm quite sure they don't wanna hear dogs barking, and I don't think they wanna smell dog poop. Okay, it's a recreation area.
Understood. Lucky for you, we're gonna continue this conversation. It's already 9:05 and we are not even halfway through the agenda. Is it okay with everybody if we move on?
Absolutely.
All right, good. Thank you. New business. Agenda item A, selection of performance evaluation tool for town administrator. Madam Administrator, I reviewed them all. My personal opinion, I thought Lakeville was quite comprehensive. And I would feel very comfortable going with this And the other thing that I liked about, sorry, it is really long, there was also a department head evaluation sheet as well, which maybe department heads might want to use if we go to an evaluation system for things like performance review, et cetera. Did you have anything you wanted to say about it?
I will just preface this. Per my contract, due for an evaluation on or around May 31st. So we need to, the board needs to pick a evaluation tool to use. These are all from other towns. Westport, Lakeville, they sent over to, and West Bridgewater. I would, of course, like Daytonize this, but I just needed to get the tool that you will be, I mean, I'll Daytonize it and then flip it around and send it back to you. You'll have to fill it out and
Like
go
I
from
said,
there.
I think Lakeville's was quite comprehensive. It covered everything. And it does come with the department head performance review as well, which could be easily modified for Dayton, as could the evaluation sheet.
So
do you feel?
oh, I'm sorry.
No.
Lakeville has two. One is, I didn't know if you wanted to use a simpler version, like what they proposed for their department head, and I didn't know if you wanted the full comprehensive one for the town administrator one. I mean, this is your decision. I find that the town administrator one from Lakeville is a little lengthy, but I'm not filling it out. So.
I thought Lakeville was okay, and yeah, it is long. And my other thought is, if we use this one for this year, first of all, you haven't been here a whole year. So it's not like we're really gonna be acting on a whole year. I think it's okay. But I think also that after we get through the first one, which isn't a full year, before we get to the next one, which will be a full year, then maybe we need to look at that tool and see if we say, we don't really need this section, or I like that section from over here, another town. I don't wanna chop it all up at this point, cause it flows, let me put it that way, but, yeah, I think 12 pages is kind of a bit much. And, quite frankly, they all use, check the box, whatever. I'm not sure checking the box is the best way to evaluate people all the time. And I looked at some of these things and I'm thinking, well, that doesn't strike me as something I would want to rate somebody on anyhow. But in any case, Lakeville's okay with me. As far as department head goes, we're not acting on that tonight, right?
No.
This was just to give you,
She was
she
just
sent
giving us
over
an
both. I
idea.
just
Okay.
didn't know.
Okay.
That we could kind of mimic that evaluation and apply it to general employment.
Yeah.
I only heard back from 3 towns, so I guess I wanted to give as much as I could.
I just wanted to say to my colleague, Selectman Goulart, my preference was Lakeville. I'm okay with any of them, honestly. Maybe for the first year, we could go with something a little bit shorter, like in the mold of what West Bridgewater sent us, just because, again, you've only been here, a couple months, so. I'm prepared to
Okay,
accept
I'm
the
hesitant
motion.
to use West Bridgewater, because that's where the town administrator came
Of
from.
course, I
And
understand.
I think there would be criticism from the public, quite frankly. But, but anyhow,
He would have found something else if it wasn't that, though, in all fairness.
You're doing a fine job. I think you can just wait till next year.
but,
Exactly.
like I say, I think for this, fill in the blanks, color in the circles, whatever you call this thing, I think it'll be okay for this year, but definitely, when we're gonna do a whole year, I think we can modify it, and look at this and say, well, this isn't really appropriate, or this doesn't fit Dayton. I happen to know the person that in Lakeville, she's been there a long time. So she must be doing a good job.
Yep.
But, like I say, yeah, I think this will be okay.
So we're going with the Lakeville Town Administrator.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we use the basic format that the town administrator has for the performance evaluation tool for the town administrator.
Friendly amendment, because we might have changed it for next year. Do we need to
What I'll
stipulate
say
for
is,
this year?
what I'll say is, for the, well, it's actually for the period ending June 30th, right?
Yep.
Of this
All
year.
right, June 30th, 2018.
Yep.
Okay.
I will step down and second that. Any further discussion? Anything you'd like to add, Madam Administrator?
No, thank you.
All right. Selectman Goulart?
No.
Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. The motion passes.
Okay, a quick note about this process. There has been a ruling about open meeting law and all of that, so the process with this is you cannot share the evaluations with each other, even to compile it. I understand you're the chairman, but Selectman Goulart can't. It's ruled as an opinion.
Okay.
So, you'll either send them to Karen or myself, and they'll be distributed at the meeting. That's the first time that you'd be able to see it.
I would see hers for the first time at the meeting. She'd see
Right.
mine. Okay,
Okay.
that's fair. And
All right.
thank you.
Okay.
All right, next on the agenda, vote to place articles on the warrant.
This is the period of time where we put together our warrant. Last week, we went over all of the items that have been submitted for the deadline, and I will just say this, the special town meeting deadline is May 9th, that's next Wednesday at 4 o'clock, so if you have a special article, please get it in. The list you have before you is organized, and items that are a petition. I think I actually have an old one, Karen.
Which items were petitioned? I know the
I
first
have
couple
an old
were.
copy.
There are 4.
Yeah, do you mind? We'll get one that is organized. The ones that are by petition are referenced there. So the historian submitted through petition the gift of Nathaniel Crane House, moving of the Nathaniel Crane House, and the Stonewall Protection Bylaw. Those have to be placed on the warrant. They did receive the correct amount, which is for an annual town meeting, 10 signatures. Thank you, Karen. All right. Are we looking at this one together, just so I know that we're, okay, I'm sorry about that. All right,
The fourth one?
what's the what?
I heard there were 4.
Yeah.
The
what's
fourth
the
one
fourth?
is the zone, the overlay 1901 County Street, also submitted by petition.
Okay, yep,
Yeah,
that
but
is.
what you need to know about that is, this is the one we defeated last year, and then people wanted it reconsidered.
Mhm.
Well, it got turned down the second time, but they had gotten the petition. Tom Pius told me that they will not recommend this. They are not going ahead with it, but because it came in as a petition,
Oh, I
It
didn't
has to be
even,
on the
yep, I
warrant.
understand.
because somebody, a
Yep.
resident, spoke to me about this at the Lions auction, and I assured him, we're not gonna go back there. But it was on the list, so I did speak to Tom, so, it's a formality because it did end up coming in by petition. But no, the zoning board is not going to be looking at that.
All right.
So
Do we
that
need
it'll,
to take these
you know,
one by one, or can we just, and then if there's one we don't like, we can single that one out?
Yes, exactly.
Do you have any you don't like? Or, excuse me, that's a terrible
No,
phrasing.
we
Do you
went
have
down-
any you are
we-
not
no.
favorable of?
no,
The other
I
one?
can't, I think, we've already read this once. I really think that unless there's information we don't know, that somebody can say, you don't want this on there because, then I think we should put them all on there and let the voters decide.
I actually,
There's one I don't, I feel like it's a little premature, is the expanding the BOS to 5 members. I
No,
feel
no,
like,
that's non-binding.
what do you mean?
All right, that's the one I put on there. That's a non-binding referendum. It gives the people present the opportunity to express their opinion. It doesn't create anything. If there is a favorable response from the people who attend town meeting, the next thing that would have to happen is we would have to draft a bylaw, hold the public meetings, get the feedback, da-da-da-da-da. And then put it on the warrant for the special town meeting this fall. And if it passes there, those people would be elected in April of 2019. This is non-binding. Because people approached me at election and after the election and made the remark, I think it's about time we went to a 5-member board of selectmen. What do you think? And I said, we discussed this before, but I opposed it because I said the first thing we need to do is separate the board of selectmen and board of health. We don't need 5 more members, 2 more members to dump more work on Karen. and 2 more members are just gonna create more work. So, let's separate the 2 boards. Let's pursue the town administrator. So the remarks were made, yeah, well, that's fine, we've done all that. The people who spoke to me and asked about this said, we don't think 2 people should control what goes on in this town. Pick any 2 on the board, any 2. We're not singling anybody out. But we don't like what has occurred in the more recent years, and we don't think 2 people should control the board. Now, since the town was formed, we had a 3-member board of selectmen. We're now over 8,000 people. So what I said to the people that said that to me, I will be willing to request a non-binding referendum to see how the people out there feel. I said, but there's no way that this could possibly be put on the annual town meeting and get this thing done. You gotta have a bylaw, you gotta go the whole boat. But I don't want to be writing bylaws or preparing bylaws if the majority of people is gonna say, forget it. So, I did call some former selectmen, and I got positive feedback. Yeah, I think it's a good idea, go ahead. I spoke to Skip Badney in Rehoboth, because they've gone through this. And he said, I wasn't in favor of it initially, but I can tell you, since it's been approved in Rehoboth, it works well. Now, without mentioning names, obviously there were 2 factions in Rehoboth, and they were the bickering factions, and there was a lot of discombobulation on the board. So anyhow, Rehoboth went to a 5-member board several years ago, and Skip is chairman, and he said that from somebody who opposed it, he felt it's working well, which means that you would need a minimum of 3 people. He said the boards that he's served on have been independent thinkers. They make informed decisions. They don't vote cliquey. They don't try to line up people one against the other to get something passed. So anyhow, all this is non-binding means we're asking the people of the town of Dayton, what do you think about this? That's all it means. And as I said, I'm doing it because I was requested that we look at expanding the board, and I said, there's no time to do it, but we can ask what people think, that's about it.
That's a nice way of doing it, Nancy, too, other than bringing it up by petition, because people have talked about bringing it up by petition before.
And if that comes, we
Here
don't,
it gets out there on the floor.
Right on.
Well,
it gives more people a chance to say, well, yeah, no, or we want you to look at this a little more, or we may get questions that we have to address. The other thing too is, if in fact we get a majority response at the town meeting, and that means we're gonna get the bylaw written and we're gonna bring it forward again, it also gives people who may consider to run well in advance notice that if this passes in the fall, these 2 positions will be on the election in April. So if it passes, there would be 3 vacancies or 3 seats to fill next April, if it all flows. But again, yeah, you're right. If it came in by petition.
Do you know how they would stagger the terms?
No, I don't. No.
I think it's like 2, 2, and 1.
I think you're right.
And then when they're up, it becomes 3. I believe this has to go through I don't know, but the legislature as well. I don't know if it would be able to turn around as quickly.
I know that, based on what happened in Rehoboth, they did turn it around that way. I don't know about the legislature, because we don't have a charter. And we wouldn't be changing the charter.
The bylaw's gonna have to go to the AG's office for
Yeah,
application.
Right.
definitely the
Right.
Attorney General's office, right. And they can take up to 90 days. And if it got turned down there, then you gotta start over again.
So more remodeling.
Yeah, but,
I need 2 more chairs.
the FinCom, by the way, wants matching chairs. I just tell you that.
I think it's a good idea for the reason you said, because, it's always been 2 people going up here
Well, not only that,
for many years.
it's the first major change in the structure of government.
Right.
Board of Selectmen, I mean, yes, we broke off the Board of Health, but that was mandated by state law. But the people in this town would have an opportunity to really look at, this is a change in town government since the town was formed. And whatever they feel, we're gonna have a feeling for,
My only, I have no issue with the non-binding referendum part of it. My only concern would be, first, when I ran for selectman, the first time, 2015, I said I was either gonna support 5 members or I was gonna support a town administrator, but I wouldn't support both. When I ran the second time, obviously, I ran on hiring a town administrator. Congratulations. My concern would be, you had mentioned, no coalitions. My concern would be now, if we have 5 members, I can turn to the person to my right, whoever that may be, and let them know how I feel. That person can then go, he can't relay what I said to the next member of the board, but they can tell another member how they feel. Now, instead of 2 versus 1, you have 3 versus 2, and 2 people can legally tell each other how they're gonna vote, what they prefer. So I have a lot of concerns with it. My other concern is we just got a town administrator.
Saying people are crooked?
I wasn't talking about anyone in particular.
Sounds like you're saying they got a lot against you.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about myself. Please listen. So what I would say is, I would prefer, since we just changed town government by hiring a town administrator, that we let the town administrator settle in before we discuss making more changes, within a year. Because if this were voted in October,
Wouldn't happen till next April. It would be over a year, because she came in December. The other thing you gotta realize is, the town administrator has no vote. What people are looking for is elected representation. And I'm not getting into the details, or the names, or anything else. The people who spoke to me were opposed to 2 people making decisions. Pick any 2. Go back to any board you want to go to. 2 people making the decisions because they felt that they were no longer being represented in the same, I don't know if you want to call it, not a weighted vote. They're just not comfortable with it. And as I say, in all honesty, when people come to me and say, hey, how about passing a whatever for this whatever, I usually say, let me think about that. This one I said, I opposed that years ago, but you know what? I think there's merit to it. It happened in Rehoboth, and I know why it happened in Rehoboth. And I said, I'll talk to some people, but the fact that it's been raised, I think the public should have the opportunity to say yay or nay, as far as whether or not it goes forward. They're not saying it's official, it's being done. No, because we're gonna have to do the rest of the work to put it together. But it's a good opportunity for the people in this town to have a chance to vote. And quite frankly, if we have a leash law, we may have SRO at DR. So there would be a good number of people who could say yes or no on this particular issue, so.
Thank you.
But I will say, if this is not a threat, if we don't do a non-binding referendum to get the feel of the people, I think we can count on a petition. Because I think there are enough people. We only need 10. I'm sure there's more than 10 spoke to me, let me leave it at that, so.
were you gonna say something?
It was not about that. It was
Oh.
a different item.
Okay.
The request to purchase the house adjacent to Town Hall, I would just like to defer that so that we would have a little bit more time to vet that out.
I'm okay
Um,
with that, Madam
I'm
Administrator.
just not ready for that.
But I do think, and even based on what, the discussion with FinCom, I think they think, it's worth further investigating. But I think, since we don't even have an accurate figure,
Right.
Mr. Commissioner?
Is property adjacent to our property campus doesn't come up all the time.
No, I don't think it should be deferred. I think we should
Okay.
look into it,
Yeah.
working on getting a, true valuation, what a reasonable offer would be. And, it's, again, as he says, it's contiguous.
Yeah, listen, an old timer told me there's no second floor, so when the place next door becomes available, buy it. So, I think.
I have a lot of plans that we could do with that. I get that it's value. I just am hesitant to rush into things, but if that's how you feel, we'll do it.
I think the opportunity should pass us by. I think Selectman Goulart's right, we should investigate it, see what the property's worth. Doesn't matter what they're asking for it. the ceiling on it.
Obviously, it didn't sell at auction because nobody bid high enough.
Mhm.
That house was built in 1790.
Yep.
It is historical. Could be purchased with CPC funds, but then you'd have to maintain the building.
And potentially,
Yeah. If the town bought it, we
I
could,
think the town's
Renovate it.
more interested in the land.
right, in the land, of course. The land is the value, but I mean, if the town don't have the money to buy it, the CPC has the money to buy it. And the house was built in 1790.
And I think the other thing too is when we went to purchase that piece of property on the driveway to the elementary school, initially it was, what are you gonna do with it? But then when we brought it to town meeting and said, expansion,
Right.
if we're gonna add on to the schools or whatever,
Yeah,
this is right next door, it's there. And they did vote it, so.
yeah. This is also a great idea.
So the only question then becomes, the article has to be written as such to what the funding source is.
and I will say that there is funding available in free cash to cover this, which I think is a good thing because it doesn't obligate the townspeople at all when we don't have a so.
CPC, we can never get that approved on the town.
Not for now,
Not
not right
by
now.
town meeting, you have to wait
No,
till
right.
fall.
But there is free cash, and this figure is a high, very high estimate. So, you know, I was conservative on it, but that's fine. We'll just,
I was given additional information on it, and I have passed that on to the person that I've asked to do an appraisal.
oh,
But I can't discuss that publicly, that would be wrong.
okay.
So, and it wasn't my colleague, so we didn't break any rules or
No.
laws.
Nope, nope, never, never.
If it has any weight, I think it should stay on. That's my.
No, I'm okay with keeping it on. I just, what I didn't want to do, because I know you had spoken to Selectman Goulart about it, I didn't want to put undue pressure on you to get that investigative portion done by a certain time, but if you feel comfortable with it, then I'm okay with it as well. Because,
It's not gonna come up to it,
agreed,
so
agreed.
I say go for it.
Any recommendations?
I
I know
guess
you
put
don't
them
get a
all on
vote.
here. Other than that, that was the only item that I wanted to just get clarification from the board.
Mm-hmm.
So what this is it's not recommending, you're not recommending at this point, you'll be voting just to put what articles are gonna go before the people at town meeting, and that's what this list is for. From the discussion, it seems like everything, that's on this list you're interested in putting on there. How we go from here is we craft the warrant articles, and they would all be subject to town council's review for
Mhm.
legal language and all of that. So that's the
I
next
will
step.
say that at the finance committee meeting, if I were to, they've gotta come in under the levy limit. And I did, the fire chief spoke to me. There was concern about the, acquiring a new ambulance and the police vehicle. What has customarily happened in the past with the finance committee is they will recommend that some of these things are deferred until the fall, simply because, for no other reason than, we gotta be at or under the levy limit. They've already notified the school department that, they're not getting $1 million plus whatever. At the meeting we had, they told them that, as Ed does with his hands, this is the pot of money that's school money. This is the total amount. If you want money for those portable classrooms, it's coming out of here, which means you're gonna have to look at educational programs, because there isn't additional money. And as I said, there was no Plan B either, but he already told them that, that's what there is for the school. And that million something is not a number we're looking at, because we don't have that kind of money. So, but the FinCom will make their recommendations, a week from tomorrow on special articles, so, I had said to the fire chief, don't be disheartened if the answer is not this time, because in the fall, when we know what free cash is, and we know what the rest of the, if there are any new ones, any new requests, that's when they'll look at it, so.
Well, what I would like to say to that, totally agreed. But what I would say is, you know, what FinCom, what Finance Committee does is make recommendations on certain things. That's their authority to do. I support the ambulance. I've spoken to the chief. I understand the need for it, so I'm happy to support it. And whatever FinCom recommends or doesn't recommend, that's their own decision to make.
I will just add that we've discussed this previously, but in the middle of this page says paving, town hall, campus, and lighting. I think we're gonna, because of the
Oh,
timing
yeah, I
changes.
crossed that off,
Okay,
moved
all
to
right, yep.
special, I wrote.
Okay. And
Where is that
this,
one?
it's right in the middle.
Right under miscellaneous.
And the item underneath it, the culvert grant, that does not need to be on at all.
Where is that, Madam?
Right
Administrator? Oh, I
underneath the
see it, I
page.
Oh, that was, that paving, we talked to Jim about that earlier tonight, so
Mhm.
that was taken care of.
Mhm.
Culvert grant.
And something of note, one of the petition articles is a money article.
The moving of the Nathaniel Crane House? I'm sure finance will have a recommendation on
I
that.
think the language is to raise and appropriate.
Mr. Chairman?
Yep,
They assigned a
Mr.
number to
Commissioner.
that?
Mm-hmm. Have they?
200,000.
Mm-hmm. I thought you meant a
And
number.
we can't change the language on a petition, so.
It just, it seems like a scam amount of money, but I don't think. we
If
should
the
do it.
first article doesn't pass, the next one is dead. The first one is gift of the Nathaniel Crane House. If the townspeople don't vote to accept the gift, there's nothing to move.
Right.
So, again, and the concern about accepting the gift is, if the town accepts the gift, it has to do something with the property. No one has told us what the intent is, even if it gets moved. I mean, a viable intent, okay? My understanding is there is a private party looking to get that building and relocate it in Dayton, somebody that owns land in Dayton. I think that would be a perfect solution. It would be a private home, but you know what? It would protect the historical integrity of the house, wouldn't cost us anything. It would clear the property for the county. So, personally, that's the solution I would like to see.
What was that, Mr. Woods? All right, I'm accepting motions.
When do we have to have this finalized for the warrant?
What do you mean? Tonight you have to vote to what's going on the
I
warrant,
think
because we need to
FinCom's
send this
gonna
over to the
event-
finance
yeah.
committee, and then you'll sign the warrant on May 16th, and it will be posted that week.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the list of articles for the annual town meeting as presented with the deletion of the culvert grant and paving the town hall and campus, paving town hall campus and lighting.
I'm gonna step down and second that motion. Any further discussion? Hearing none, let's take it to a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. The motion passes. Okay, next on our to-do list this evening are year-end transfers.
It's that time, it's after May 1st. Town accountant is, I guess, accepting transfers. And I actually have a transfer proposal tonight to transfer $32,000 from my budget to go into the public buildings line so that the Old Town Hall renovations can continue. And so the sources of funding would be in the town had funded a secretary under my budget that's not being used. So that entire line, which was $23,900, and the town had funded the budget, my salary, at a higher figure than what is, what I'm being paid, which is fine. So there's some money left over, so I would like to transfer from those two lines, a total of $32,000 into public buildings, and as the Board of Selectmen is the receiving end of this money, I would just need you to vote and sign so that the town accountant can approve that. She would verify the availability of funds, and then it would either be back to you again for you to sign and approve based on the availability of funds, or you can do a kind of a pre-motion and approve it subject to the town accountant's review as well. And then
I
this would go to the
prefer
finance
that.
committee.
Yeah, if that's okay with you, Mr.
So we
Commissioner?
won't need that special article?
Correct.
If this is approved,
Correct.
yes, that is correct.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the budget, year-end budget transfer request of $23,900 from the town administrator, secretary line, and $8,100 from the salary from the town administrator, to be transferred to public buildings, $32,000 in total. And it's Department 010. Let me back up. Karen, forget everything I just said, please. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the budget transfer request as presented by the town administrator, and that we transfer from account 010-5110, $23,900, which is salary from the secretary from the town administrator, and from account 010-5105, $8,100, salary town administrator, to account number 010-5250, total of $32,000 for the public buildings, and its building repairs and maintenance.
I'm gonna step down and second that motion. Discussion?
I have one item to discuss, please. You asked a question, Selectman Goulart, I just want full disclosure. The answer would be no, as long as I can finish and expend everything by June 30, because then that money goes back to free cash. So if I don't, and there's any outstanding items, then we'll still need some money to finish up.
So the article, if we leave the article on the special town meeting, we can always reduce it at town meeting to get the money you
That was
need.
my suggestion.
What about I'd like to speak with the town accountant about encumbering it, because it is for a specific purpose, and you would.
No,
No? She
no,
won't do
it's not a
that?
special article, it's a
Special-
transfer.
So,
Right,
okay.
I've been down this road.
We all
You can
have.
have the discussion.
No, I don't need to travel it if, okay. Well, they're due May 9th, so get that in, and we'll put it in there.
So, yeah, if it's approved by the accountant, I'll just keep the ball rolling, so.
Well, let's have a conversation with her to figure out the best way, and
We've already
it's
approved
due
the
May
money for
9th.
the roof, so that's gonna, the contract's been issued,
Right.
so that guy's gonna, that money's already taken care of. The roof's gonna get done. So this will allow you to finish downstairs and upstairs.
Right. Well, yes.
It's just
Yes,
timing
well,
of,
it's just the timing.
of
As long as I
contractors.
get it done by June 30,
Mhm.
then I can't spend any more of this money after June
Right.
30.
Right.
Okay,
But-
so
but
May 9th,
amending the article is an option at the special if we still have outstanding items to be done.
The other thing is, as we get closer to the, no, that's a special. Yeah, what we can do is,
I'm writing it down
might
as
be
an
able to
article.
carry that forward from the special.
I'm sorry?
We could probably carry it forward from the special, but
Yes,
not
that-
from this transfer.
Right, right.
Okay, all right, I understand.
mean, yeah, first of all, thank you, Administrator Harrison, for allowing this, because I hated to wait until this money was appropriated. I like to keep it rolling. But I just want everyone to know that if it doesn't happen, the special article may still be required.
Yeah, because of the timeline,
Right.
because of the
Within that
timeline,
amount. It isn't that we're spending any more money, it's just the timeline,
right.
we'll have to amend that.
And special articles can be carried over.
Right. Unless
I know what you're thinking.
Administrator Harrison has a different conversation with.
Madam Administrator?
Well, I don't know if you can transfer money like this into a special article, because if you got it into your account, like the article account, yeah, I don't think you
I
can,
don't
so.
know if that's what Mrs. Goulart
No,
was
no.
saying.
A special article on a town meeting warrant would be, I assume, transfer from free cash. Let's say of the $32,000 you're getting, you only complete $22,000 worth of work because you're running out of time.
Right.
You're not gonna get it done by June 30th. So the special town meeting warrant article, whatever's on there, would be reduced to $10,000. a special warrant article is like a revolving, not a revolving account, it's a carryover. And it will stay open until you either spend it all or say to her, I'm all done, whatever's left, you know, put it into estimated receipts. That's what it is, yeah.
I'll do my best, but it's only 2 months, so.
We understand. Further discussion?
We're just waiting for that open house.
The ribbon cutting.
May come quicker now, thank you.
Anything else? Hearing, let's take it to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. The motion passes. Congratulations. Just kidding. Mr.
Well,
Clerk.
it's for you, it's not for me, it's for everyone.
So now this will go to the town accountant for her to verify the availability of funds.
Selectman Goulart? Yep.
So this will come back before you after she signs, and then the finance committee will review it as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. I believe, if I'm correct, the next on the agenda this evening is appoint temporary clerk to the Board of Selectmen. Not sure we need to discuss this much, so I'm gonna make a motion to appoint Selectman Goulart as temporary clerk to the Board of Selectmen.
And I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. Let's take it to a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The motion passes.
The reason why it's temporary is whoever gets elected will be bringing this up again.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Brady, we already did E at a previous meeting, so that's off the agenda. I've also been advised, without representation present, we're gonna skip F, correct? All right. G, request for waiver of building permit fee by Dayton Baseball and Softball League. We did receive correspondence on April 11th regarding a building permit from the Dayton Baseball and Softball League. To whom it may concern, I'm writing as president of the Dayton Baseball and Softball League, a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to providing the children of Dayton an opportunity to participate in sports. I have learned through my years on the board of directors of this organization that the town has had a long history of helping and supporting Dayton baseball. At this time, I am requesting that the town continue to help us by waiving the building permit fee, which has been requested by the Dayton Baseball and Softball League, located at the Lopes Dayton Baseball Complex. As president of the Dayton Baseball and Softball League, I'd be happy to further discuss this matter. I truly appreciate any help that can be offered. Signed, Robert Fredericks.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve as long as we go to discussion.
Yep, I'm gonna step down and second that motion. Discussion?
Recommendation?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, I recommend you waive the fee.
Okay.
Thank you.
Happily? No, I'm just kidding. Any further discussion? All right, let's take it to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. The motion passes. Warrant for special town election. I believe we already, didn't we just do this? I feel like it's
No, this
Groundhog
is-
Day. We did the annual. Okay. Let's see here. I have I'm okay with it.
Oh, no, this is the special election.
Warrant for the special election.
You have to sign this.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Jeez, I had the town meeting on my brain. All right,
It
Do we-
seems like that's all we've been doing lately.
correct. The budget and the town meeting. Now, do we read this, Ms. Brady? Okay. This is Town of Dayton, Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Bristol, to either of the constables of the Town of Dayton, County of Bristol's greeting. In the name of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, you are hereby directed to notify the inhabitants of the Town of Dayton qualified to vote in elections to meet at the Dayton Elementary School for both precincts 1 and 2 on Thursday, the 28th day of June 2018 at 7 a.m., then and there to vote on the following question. Board of Selectmen to fill vacancy term to expire April 2020. For this purpose, the polls will be opened at 7 a.m. and shall close at 7 p.m., and you are directed to serve this warrant by posting attested copies thereof at each of the post offices at the town hall and at the main fire station, all in said Dayton, 7 days at least before the time of said meeting. Hereof fail not and make due return of this warrant with your doing thereon to the town clerk at the time and place of said meeting. Given under our hands this, I assume, 2nd day of May in the year 2018.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the warrant for the special election.
I'm going to step down and second that motion. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. That motion passes. Selectman Goulart. Thank you, Selectman Goulart.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, and thank you, Ms. Brady. Okay, next on our agenda is correspondence. We did receive from the fire chief a letter informing us of his intention to appoint 3 new members. So I'll just read it, dated April 26, 2018. Dear Board, I'm writing this letter to inform you that effective on May 13th, 2018, I will be appointing 3 new members to the call fire ranks. The new members are as follows: Joshua George, Sarah Matson, Michael Medeiros. Mr. George, if your last name is pronounced Jorge, I sincerely apologize. Ms. Matson and Mr. George will be call paramedics and come to this department with a lot of training and experience in emergency medical services on 911-based ambulance systems. Mr. Medeiros comes to this department as a call firefighter and has a great amount of training and experience in fire service. These 3 appointments will bring a great deal of knowledge and experience to the fire department, and I look forward to working with them. Any questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to contact me. Respectfully, Chief Christopher J. McGee.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we vote to acknowledge the appointments of Joshua George, Sarah Matson, and Michael Medeiros to the call firefighter ranks as recommended by Chief McGee.
I'm going to step down and second that motion. Discussion? Hearing none, let's take it to a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. Next on our correspondence is a request for new rates by Columbia Gas. Selectman Goulart, did you want to read that one?
I want to vote against this.
Yeah, okay.
I have gas heat. This is from Columbia Gas Company, 2025 Roosevelt Avenue, Springfield, Mass. And it's addressed to, it should have been addressed to Selectman Zagrafis, Chairman of the Board of Selectmen, 979 Somerset Avenue, Dayton, Mass. 02715. On April 13th, Columbia Gas of Massachusetts filed a request for new rates. Columbia Gas is proposing a rate adjustment of $24.1 million, which represents a 3.9% increase in total operating revenues. If approved by the DPU, the impact on the total bill for a typical residential heating customer would be $4.95 per month, or 3.6%, beginning March 1st, 2019. For our commercial and industrial customers, the new rates would increase by would increase by 3.74 to 5.98%. The Columbia Gas request is reduced by the impact of the Federal Tax Credit and Jobs Act, which became effective on January 1st, 2018. In the first year after the rates take effect, the $9.1 million refund due to the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act will reduce the residential customer bill impact to an average of $2.80 per month, or 2%, and for commercial and industrial customers, 2.51 to 4.24%. The drivers for the request include costs related to the continuing multi-year modernization efforts CMA is undertaking to comply with increasingly stringent federal and state regulatory mandates so that safe, reliable, and cost-effective service to customers is maintained over the long term. Inflationary increases since the last rate adjustment in April of 2015, net of any continued infrastructure replacement charges that are already reflected in rates, and new facilities, including the recently opened state-of-the-art training center in Shrewsbury and the upcoming new Rentham MOD, which will house construction resources designed with features that optimize operating safety for employees and outside contractors. These changes involve more work and therefore more labor and labor-related costs, including ongoing comprehensive employee training. A new state-of-the-art training facility in Shrewsbury, where employees are able to train locally and obtain the skills and capabilities necessary to achieve full compliance with pipeline safety regulations, while executing best practices to keep you, our workforce, and the communities we serve safe, and a soon-to-be new construction facility located in Rentham to house construction resources designed with features that optimize operating safety for employees and outside service contractors. The proceeding is docketed 18-45. We have also enclosed a copy of the press release that was distributed on April 13. If you would like additional information, visit www.mass.gov/DPU, or I encourage you to contact me if you have any questions or concerns. Sincerely, Michael F. Kane. Not sure what his title is.
You can have one. Thank you, Selectman Goulart. Announcements, just very briefly.
Oh, I have one other
sorry.
piece of correspondence that's, Monday night, I received a phone call from Skip Vadney, Chairman of the Board of Selectmen in Rehoboth. A couple of weeks ago, Selectman Vadney visited Town Hall, and he left packages for each of us that contained that proposed regional agreement that was prepared by the Rehoboth Board of Selectmen. He asked if we had received it. I knew I had gotten a package. You got a package? I said, I thought you had gotten a package, and I thought that Jack's package was still here. He has asked if we would consider meeting with them just to review what the proposals are. He said he's not looking for a debate. He's not looking for anything more than a special meeting to sit and for them to review this with us. He requested that it not be a regular meeting because he figures that this meeting should be just for this subject. I told him that I would pass this information on to you and we would get back to him. That's how I left it.
All right.
Told him we were having a special election in June. They're hoping that we do something before then. I said, again, I will pass this on to the chairman, and we'll let you know.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, very quickly, announcements. Bulky item pickups are scheduled for the week of June 11th through June 15th. Tags are available for purchase at the Selectmen's office. The rate sheet is available on Facebook, the town website, on the Board of Health's webpage, and I believe we did send it via mass email. Information session regarding the proposed right to farm bylaw will be held Thursday, May 17th, 6:30 p.m. at Town Hall. Public is encouraged to attend and ask questions. 2 upcoming Green Communities information sessions will be held regarding the proposed stretched energy code bylaw on Monday, May 14th at 7 p.m. and Wednesday, May 30th at 7:30 p.m. at Town Hall. And the Dayton Historical Society has an upcoming event, May 19th. There will be a plant and yard sale at the Winslow Davis Museum from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Call 508-669-4004 to reserve a yard sale space. Selectmen's reports. I don't have anything. Selectman Goulart?
No, I don't have anything.
All right. Acknowledgements. We do have here a anonymous donation of Primetime in the amount of $30.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we acknowledge the anonymous donation of $30 to Primetime.
I will step down and second that motion. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. Approval of the minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the minutes of the regular meeting, Board of Selectmen on April 23rd, 2018 be approved.
I will step down and second that motion. Discussion. Hearing none. Let's take it to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. The motion passes. Approval of the warrants.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the following warrants be approved. 44A-18 in the amount of $85,551, 1 cent payroll. 44B-18 in the amount of $72,976, 41 cents. And warrant 44C-18 in the amount of $5.24. The last two being accounts payable be approved.
I'm going to step down and second that motion. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. The motion passes. Any last public input?
I do have something to report, just briefly. There was a meeting today, and Mr. Aguirre was there, so if he wishes to comment. The purpose of the meeting today was with the gentleman whose company did the traffic study for the expansion of the Aggie School campus. And Laura was here from the architectural firm. And he presented a review of the report that had been emailed to us. And the discussions that took place, Mr. Ferry was here too. And it was Mr. Aguirre, Mr. Ferry that had comments about some of the signs they want to locate. They want to have warning signs that, you know, those things that blink as you approach them if you're speeding. Also, signs closer to the river that indicate that you're entering the, you know, they're reconfiguring the driveway, and that you'll be entering that area that has the crossing light. You want to add anything?
No, the study indicated two problems with the current traffic flow. One is the speeds are too high, which the police chief was present. And the other one was that the visibility of the pedestrian crosswalk, which is going to be relocated for the new campus, would need more visibility. So I think they did a good job. I think the suggestions that they made were appropriate. They are going to put some signage up that shows speed limits and your actual speeds, some type of warning to try to get people to slow down. Police chief said he'll work to try to slow traffic down as well. And then we hashed out the actual crosswalk, how it will be constructed, the signage, et cetera, et cetera. We also said we take any concern, make sure that we don't have flashing, annoying lights for some of the residences over there. But overall, it was a good meeting. I'm actually very happy. I've worked with a lot of engineering, architectural design firms on large projects. I'm very impressed with the firm that school chose. They seem to be very open, forthright, they communicate well, so I'm looking forward to hopefully bringing this project to fruition.
Chief McGee was here also, and Ryan Miranda from the Aggie School. Oh, and by the way, their bond was taken down. The one we inspected,
Yes.
that is gonzo.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Motion to adjourn.
Do we have an executive session tonight?
No.
Okay, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
And I will step down and second that. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Have a good night and thank you, Cable.